All right. So I want to see if anybody can hear anything. All right. So I want to see.
Some jerk has his phone on with the volume.
Watching
the show.
All right, good morning. We're here. Melissa's here.
I'm here.
Look at that. You're going to have to speak up, though, today.
I have an issue with that.
Well, you may want to sit up and whatever. And
It's too early on a Tuesday morning.
let's see if we're still testing as far as, how it sounds and looks. Let's see if we're still testing. As far as how it still sounds a little hollow, but, we'll get through it. Anyway, so this morning we are joined by a member of the Board of Finance, Scott Davis. Good morning, Scott. How are you?
Good.
Okay, great. Thanks for expounding on that. So you haven't been here in a while.
No, it's been quite a while, probably a couple of years.
Yeah, since we were in the other building over there.
Yeah.
So back to the last time you were here, or you were on our show,
Yep.
It was you were the Board of Finance chairperson.
Correct.
At that time.
Yep, correct.
And then we went through an election cycle.
Yep.
And Alex Greslak became the Board of Finance chair.
Correct.
And now there's no chair. Dan Webster is the vice chair.
Correct.
So is he basically acting as the chair for the Board of Finance right now?
Yes, he is.
Okay. So can he do anything right now that like a Board of Finance chairman can do?
Yeah, he is. He's essentially, fulfilling the role of chair.
Or it doesn't matter because it's a small town and nobody really cares.
No, certainly it matters.
So it's off budget season, and there's not a lot going on as far as the Board of Finance is concerned. But how does the Board of Finance? The elections are coming up.
Yep.
How does that affect the shape of the Board of Finance? Not just the members, but the roles of the members.
So in this election cycle, you have the normal election, I'll say, for the Board of Finance. There are, I think, 4 that are running under the normal election. You also have, I guess I'll call it the special election, which is for that vacancy for Alex's seat.
Right.
And that is to serve for the remainder of his term, which is really 2 years from his coming election. He was in a staggered seat from what my seat is, because they're 4-year terms.
You're in a 4-year seat.
Correct. And he was, but they're just they're staggered.
Board of Ed does that too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Staggered by 2 years. So whoever wins that special election will take that seat, and then I guess also whoever wins that election, that will determine, I guess, which party has the majority on board.
Okay. And that's usually how a chair and vice chair is usually chosen
You know,
at that point.
I'm going to say yes and no. And I'm going to go, all the way back to when I first was on the board, and you had, Steve Merchant,
Yeah.
who was the chair. I think the Democrats had the majority,
He was the
and
chair for many years.
but essentially there was never any discussion, never any, wanting to change who was chair. When Steve left, I became chair. There was
a member of the board of selectmen.
That is correct. That's correct. He got elected to board of selectmen. Couldn't hold both seats, so he had to vacate his seat on the board of finance. So there was a point where then
but he could have done it, couldn't he? But he would have had to recuse himself from a lot of stuff.
I don't know if statutorily he could have held
Okay.
both. I think it's a statute that prevents that. So I was elected chair. But there was also a period of time where then the Republicans had the majority. I was reelected at the next election cycle, again as chair. It didn't really matter who had party control, we'll say, I guess. And then I think there was a period of time where then it went to Brian Baker, and then it went, I believe, back to me. And I think a lot of times those were periods where it was Republican, controlled. So I wouldn't say that's necessarily a given, that based on whoever has the majority, but it changes. That's just kind of the way the world works.
Right.
Sometimes things work one way, sometimes they work another. But you're right. Typically, whoever has control, that kind of dictates, obviously, which way the vote is going to go. But it's not necessarily a given.
And so right now there are, you said, 4 seats available.
So there are, in your regular election, there are 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats that are up, and then a special election, there's obviously 1 Democrat, 1 Republican for that seat.
Now they could have gone ahead, right, and filled Alex's seat. Well, actually, did you try
We did.
to fill it, and then
We met. We met, and there was an impasse. There was no majority vote for that vacancy. It was partisan. Obviously, and
but that's not the first time it happened.
that's not the first time that's
When
happened.
Brian Baker left, same thing kind of happened.
That is correct. That's correct. And had we filled it, it's only filled until the next election.
Yeah.
It's temporary, so it'd be for really a 2-month period. Since we couldn't fill it, and we couldn't fill it within 30 days, the Board of Selectmen does have that opportunity
But they did
to
not, right?
appoint somebody. To my knowledge, they have not as of yet. No.
I'm assuming they're just going to go ahead and wait
Yeah.
till to the election.
And I would say that
I'm assuming.
for the most part, there are some things that I would say that our board is extremely partisan. They dig their heels in, and
Right.
it kind of goes one way. But for the most part, a lot of things we're able to kind of talk our way through and see everybody's points of view and take all of that into account, and and do what we really feel is best for the community.
So the only ones I know that are running for Board of Finance right now is, say, Mark DePonte on
So
the Democrat side.
So Mark DePonte is running in the special election
Okay.
for that seat, and I believe he's running against Val Grills
Okay.
for that seat. For the regular election, you have Gail Rooker-Norman and myself on the Democratic ticket, and then you have.
But you're not running right now.
Oh, I'm up for re-election in November. Yes.
Oh, you are? Okay,
I am.
so your term is up.
It is. Yeah,
Okay,
it
all right,
is.
all right.
And then you have Bob Hamill, and
And he's a Republican, correct?
he is.
Yep.
And I don't remember his first name. Pico is his last name.
Jared?
No,
Rob? No.
I don't
Mark.
remember.
Mike? Mark?
I think it begins with an M.
Don.
but don't
Don
quote- yeah,
Pico.
but don't quote me. Yeah, but don't quote me. I
Fred
got,
Pico. No,
Yeah, I don't remember what his,
I don't.
what
I
his
have
first
no
name
idea.
is. Yeah,
But it's a Pico.
it is.
There's a lot of Picos.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Picos. All right, so we'll find out eventually who that is. But all right, so that's the election. So I'm assuming though that the Board of Ed's not going to go ahead and appoint anybody now. It would be kind of silly, I would think, at this point, being in a
Board of Finance.
Board of I'm sorry, yeah, Board of
We-
Finance. Yeah,
I think our window's closed. We have 30
right. But even
days.
for them to do it, because they could do it at any point. But I think it's kind of silly now at this point to do it.
Yeah.
There's not a lot happening as far as the Board of Finance is concerned.
There's not. I've learned at some point I try not to read into things too much because just when you think you know the answer,
Yeah.
the complete opposite happens. So
So what do you guys do at Board of Finance meetings right now? Just like eat a lot, like shrimp gumbo or something? Just kind of hang out, or
that's that. I thought that was the best kept secret. Like,
yeah.
Now everybody's gonna want to be on the board.
no, I mean we still have normal. We still have normal business that comes up. There, bonding items. We meet this evening. And for example, so tonight, let me find my email and kind of give you an idea what the agenda
Facebook
is.
user says it's Matt Pico.
Matt Pico. Okay.
Facebook user, no, that was Mary Beth. Mary Beth Valen said that. Facebook user says, I heard last night that there was a special Board of Selectmen meeting this Thursday to possibly fill that seat.
Okay.
I have not seen an agenda yet.
Okay.
So, okay.
Yeah. So for
I
example,
don't know why they would do that.
Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of out of my wheelhouse.
Yeah,
so-
I don't know how much personally. I don't know how much sense that makes, other than just to kind of stick somebody there, for election purposes or something. Try. I mean, would that be like a ploy? Pretty much to kind of like get ahead on the board. As far as putting another Republican on there before the election.
It could.
I want to find out who Facebook user was and made that comment. Let's see here. I never know. I never ever know. I'm gonna find out though. Because if there's a thing you gotta click, and if you don't click to allow your name on, it comes up Facebook user. It was Jamie O'Neill Eaton who said she thought that there was going to be a Board of Finance. Our special Board of Selectmen meeting, but there was supposed to be a Board of Selectmen meeting last night, I believe, and that was canceled. So, yeah, there was nothing happening. So, how much does pre-election stuff affect boards in town? I mean, I know you can probably only speak to the Board of Finance, but
So what do you mean by that? I mean,
well,
that's
I think
kinda,
right now we kind of have a lame duck for selectman,
Okay.
because she's not going to be in office going forward.
Yep.
It's like so what happens? And I don't mean lame duck as an insult. It's just a term.
Yeah.
Because she didn't win the primary, didn't get the nomination of her party.
So I mean, from my perspective with the Board of Finance, the election process is just something that takes place. We still have a responsibility. We still have a charge. That charge is the oversight of the finances. We still need to deal with all of the financial matters that are presented to us in a timely and an efficient manner. We still need to act in the best interest of the taxpayers. So whether you're up for re-election, whether you happen to not be running for re-election again, it really doesn't change your obligations to the town. And everybody, and I feel everybody on the Board of Finance treats it accordingly.
It's really just small town politics. I find myself that whether you're Republican or Democrat, everybody's pretty close to the aisle, and they really kind of go towards the needs of the town. The only time I really see party lines hit is like when we're going to add a member to the Board of Finance or something like that. That's usually when you get a hung jury.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. You know, generally, generally, I think we're pretty bipartisan. You're right. If it comes to filling a vacancy, everybody kind of digs their heels in,
Yeah.
And takes a firm position, a
Right.
party position. You know, budget time is maybe the only other time where you start to see a little bit more of that. Although I think it's important that maybe that everybody understands. We'll also have that dialogue that when things tend to start taking that direction, a lot of times we'll have those conversations. And, you know, the open dialogue is
Right.
obviously the most important part of that to keep things moving, keep the conversation going.
Not many comments this morning. I think a lot of people are afraid to talk during Board of Finance stuff. They don't wanna-
I don't know why.
I don't know. It's just money, kids.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just it. So the one thing that is going on. Well, you know, I mean, here's something I want to ask. A couple things actually. We talk about being partisan or bipartisan or whatever.
Sure.
We're coming into a time where it's going to be very, very possible and probable, right? We've talked about this, right? That there are. She has no idea.
Yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay. Where the Board of Selectmen is going to be built into 3 different representations. So, for example, Wayne Malin, he's a Republican, right? From the Democrat side, let's say it's Rich Grabowski.
Yep.
And then you have Tina Falk, who's unaffiliated altogether.
Yep.
How does that affect the Board of Finance? I mean, I know you probably didn't see this one coming, but I'm really curious. How does this affect the Board of Finance or any other board that seems to maybe vote partisan?
Well,
Sorry.
well, you know,
You don't have to answer.
I guess I'll start by saying this, and this is really this is my opinion. This is my approach.
And that's all I want.
I think it's important to recognize that you're going to have certain opinions. You're going to have certain beliefs. There are frameworks that your party is built upon.
Yeah.
However, we're in local government, and my personal opinion is, while some of that framework may influence to an extent your decision-making process, it shouldn't be the sole influence in your decision-making process. That in local government, especially where, you know, really every dollar counts, every decision is of the utmost importance, that you need to make decisions based on what you think is going to be the best decision that's going to have the best result for the most of the community, either in that set point in time or in the future, to set yourself up for the future. Partisan politics don't belong in local government. That's just my opinion. You're not working for your party, you're working for the people. So you know, I'll start my answer by saying that.
That's why I like having you on, Scott, because I mean you're a straight shooter. You know, you're not. It doesn't seem like you talk from when you're here. You know, any party line. You just talk about what's best for the town. That's probably why you've been successful on the Board of Finance.
And it may, you know, it may not make everybody happy. It may not make everybody happy. I'll throw this out there, and maybe I'll get filleted for it. I don't know. But you know, with my own party as chair, and I've said this time and time again. What? I'm a Democrat. However, probably if you look at my voting record, especially when I was the chair, I broke more ties siding with the Republicans than I did siding with the Democrats. What does that mean? That just means that I'm I'm looking at both sides and I'm trying to make that decision based on what I truly believe is the best
Right.
for the community.
And that's what
And
you're
then I think
doing.
that's that's how you need to approach it if you want to get involved in local politics. What is the unaffiliated, the Republican and the Democrat situation that you bring up? How does that impact us?
Or any board for that matter.
I don't know if it necessarily impacts us any more or any less than the current makeup of the Board of Selectmen, the makeup of the Board of Selectmen before that, because there are very distinct roles that each part of government has. We are the budgetary authority. We have a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers. Board of Selectmen, they're operational. You know, there is overlap, but there's not overlap. There's a divide there. That's your system of checks and balances. So I think largely, if you just, in a basic sense, look at what our charge is,
Right.
our charge doesn't change. How we have to approach things or what we may have to deal with, that can change as obviously that
Right.
board changes, each election cycle.
Just curious, anybody that's out there, because more and more people are kind of filling in. And this has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but just because we're kind of still trying to work things out in this new studio and everything. Well, same studio, just set up differently. Can you hear us okay? Because I don't know how these microphones are working as far as they're unidirectional microphones, they're not omnidirectional. So I don't know how. I might have to go to a different type of microphone if we keep doing this. So I think of going to lapels. What do you think about
You
lapels?
could do that too.
Do you have those?
I do have them. I just haven't done it.
I was gonna say.
So audio quality isn't great. Keeps fading in and out. I kind of figured that would happen. It's Jamie. I kind of figured. But like if we were like if I was like
You want me to pull this forward?
if I was talking like this, then you could be able to hear it just fine. Yeah. I'm gonna do that too. Most times you're not talking a whole lot, so.
Fine.
So no, you can, and you're encouraged to.
It's whatever.
Yeah, I mean, put it like right in your mush.
I'm an ornament. I'll just say, hey,
And what a fine looking ornament you are, honey. So does that sound a little bit better? Like as far as my voice is concerned, what about good just say something like cow now, brown cow. I don't know.
Hello, check, 1, 2, test.
Yeah. Gary says yes. Facebook user says much better.
Yeah,
It's a style of microphone. They're unidirectional, so they're meant for broadcast. These electro voices, but they're not made. They don't have a dynamic 360-degree pattern.
sure.
All right. So now here's my next question, and I didn't even know I was going to ask this because we kind of went to the Board of Selectmen a little bit, but what is your stance as a board of? It's not a political question. It's not anything about it's not policy opinion or anything. Well, it is and it isn't. What is your position or your preference as a Board of Finance member with the possibility of the Board of Selectmen going to 5 members? Boom, boom, no dogs allowed.
Can we get the Jeopardy music going in the background? What is
ding ding ding? What is
So,
idiocy,
my
Mike?
my opinion?
Yeah.
And this may
Now, I'm
be-
not asking Scott Davis's opinion. I'm asking as far as Board of Finance business. How would a 5-member board? I am so sorry.
I would have preferred you say what's Scott Davis.
All right, what is Scott Davis? Let's do the Scott
I don't
Davis
think they're
approach.
going to a 5.
I didn't want to pin Scott Davis.
Oh,
is
I don't
why,
have a
so.
problem. I don't
All
have
right,
a problem giving. I don't have a problem giving my opinion.
Okay.
And then maybe it can roll into how it would affect a board of finance.
Okay.
I mean, my personal opinion is we're now in 2023. I think that the style of government that we are in right now is outdated. I think that we should have a 5 or 7 board town council. I
A
think-
town manager.
and we should have a town manager. We should have, somebody that is educated and degreed as an
Mhm.
actual town manager. Have them come in and run this town truly like
Like a business.
I mean, and that's not to disparage anybody that has attempted that in the past, but there's something to be said for, for that form of
Sure.
government and getting that expertise.
Killingly's done well with it.
In the system. And I think that, if you go to something like that, a town manager, you go to a town council, how does that affect the Board of Finance? The Board of Finance doesn't have the same role as it does now. The role of the Board of Finance changes. I think in most towns where they've gone to a town manager and town council, any boards of finance really become more, I think, finance committees at that
Right.
time where they're advisory.
I know there was this was back in the school check days. First term, Kevin Schoolcheck. Which Kevin, if you're listening, first term was a lot different than second term. Kevin Schoolcheck, sorry. I can't get him to budge. Nothing, but he's really good. That's the cop in you, isn't it? He tried to go to a 5-member board, but it was shot down.
Mhm.
It went to it was a referendum question, and it didn't go anywhere. What's the difference between then and now?
I think that inherently, well, I'm not surprised it got shut down. Inherently, people don't like change.
Yeah.
I mean,
Very true.
that's everywhere and everything. People don't like change, and you can explain it until you're blue in the face, but people get very comfortable, or people get concerned that they're going to lose something. I don't know what you're going to lose, but I think you look at the gains. There are reasons why more and more of this style is getting, I'll say phased out. It's great for the small town, but we talk about wanting to bring commercial and industrial, business
Right.
in commercial business and industry into the town, offset the tax base that we've got to run it like a business.
Mhm.
Well, who better to run it like a business is somebody that's had that true experience that does that as
Sure.
their profession.
Scott Fryer says, "Good luck breaking up the Griswold Mafia."
See, now you'll get a little reaction.
Could have been a contender.
But that's nobody likes change.
Okay. No. I agree.
Yeah.
You have any questions?
No.
No. Just kind of hanging out.
I don't know a lot about finance.
I don't think you need to know a lot about finance, really.
I just listen.
When I started learning about the Board of Finance, and I just started asking stupid questions, I got better. You know what I mean? It's just, I just kind of listened more and more and more. It's really just, it's pluses and minuses, dollars and cents.
Yeah, I'm not good at that.
It's all right.
Never have been. Still not.
What was as far as economic development is concerned, where are we going with that? As far as, does the Board of Finance, or are you guys aware of, do they tell you what's going on, what to expect? Because as we all know, there's not a whole lot of nothing going on as far as economic development is concerned. And here's a caveat to that is the data centers. We all have talked about it, ad nauseum for a long time. I'm sure you would seen the numbers, of what it could have been.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, I guess the real question is how would something like that really affect the town's tax base? Because we hear, oh, there's another restaurant. Well, that's not really going to do much. Oh, there's another retail store. Oh, that's not really going to do much. So if we talk about something like a data center or a large, warehousing or manufacturing, well, we don't make anything here, but how would that actually affect the tax base in Griswold?
Well, I think that would be a rather large offset, certainly the data center.
Yeah.
A large offset to the tax base on your residents. We don't have a lot of, tremendous amount of tax base on
Right.
commercial industry. We just don't. You can list the number of significant businesses in commercial industry
Right.
on one page, roughly. So to bring something like that in to offset the burden, the backs of the taxpayers,
Yeah.
that would be significant.
So in I guess in dollars and cents or mill rate, how would that affect the mill rate? Like let's say, and I know the data centers is passe now, but
I mean, it's hard to just throw a number out there. I mean, I think that obviously as you bring in, let's say the infrastructure finally goes through.
How important is the
finally gets
infrastructure?
done. I think it's critical. I think that there have been, and I couldn't give you a number, but I mean, I would suspect that there have been a number of, businesses, companies that may have wanted to look in this
Sure.
area, but they don't have the infrastructure to support that.
Right.
So they look elsewhere. I don't know to what point, did they have conversations, not have conversations? I find it hard to believe that nobody's really looked in this particular area.
I don't understand why. I mean, like especially up on 164, in that general area, it's easy access to 395. It's equidistant, even like Boston, Providence, Hartford, New York.
Right.
It's a wonderful place to be.
Right.
And I don't know, and I would think the infrastructure is critical, just as you had said, if not
Right. I mean, do I think
a game changer?
I
Period.
certainly think that there would be an offset. I mean, if that went through and you had, and I don't know how much commercial development you're really going to get. I mean, is it going to look like business after business after business, and you're going to be like, oh my God, it's going to take me 15 minutes to get through 3 stoplights? Doubtful. But there will certainly be an offset. What's going to be, is there going to be an extra draw on, I'll call it services, and that's probably a conversation for another day. But is there going to be a draw on services that's going to obviously offset some of the realized savings to the taxpayers because of that commercial access? Yes, there will be. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I've been on the board for a while now. And gosh, this would probably be I'm coming up on finishing up my 12th year, which is probably 8 years longer than I had initially intended on being on the board. And we just always seem to hear the same stories. Hey, we're in talks with whatever. Hey, something's going to come up, and then all of a sudden we don't hear anything, and we'll ask about it at a meeting. They're like, yeah, no, that's not happening anymore. Or somebody was looking for free money to be able to come in, and that fell through. Or our role on the commercial development side of things is really very limited. I mean, I would say that it's more of how you attack it or approach it. It's probably more of a partnership or team effort by probably the first selectman, board of selectmen, the town planner, the economic development committee. I mean, those are really, I think, the three areas where they're really charged with that. Our role up to this point has been very limited. They had to pass at one point some verbiage through us because they wanted to be able to, as an enticement, offer tax abatements to certain businesses when they came.
Well, there's a guy named Jim Bardia that owns Wirewind, who I guess it was sold, but no, I guess he didn't really sell it. I guess it's still there. He was going to build turbine engines or something.
I remember that.
Yeah, well, he still owns it. It was
supposed to be like a windmill property or something.
Yeah. And he wanted tax abatements, and stuff, and then nothing really happened. I don't know if his backing went away or.
And we do have language. I think there's, I don't remember if it's policy or ordinance, and I don't remember now.
I didn't care for the guy. The guy was a New York guy, and I was actually talking to him with a couple of the people in the parking lot when he was there looking for the tax abatements. He called us a bunch of hick cowboys. I looked at him and said, "You're a real jackass, aren't you?" And I walked away.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah.
We are nothing if we're not cowboys.
Idiot. Sorry, Rich. if Tom Giard was on the show about maybe 2 weeks ago,
Mhm.
and one of the things that he had said is that there's not a lot of real estate that the town owns that's able to be developed into commercial property. We do know that 164 is a lot. Why are we not spending more time on it? Why are we not focusing on that corridor right there? The heck with Polinsky's egg farm. You know what I mean? And they're trying to sell for whatever crazy dollar they want to sell for. There's 164 there. I mean, yeah, there's some crazy prices over there too, but that's huge. I think it's paramount. We get the infrastructure over there, and I think the people that come in personally, I just want your opinion. The people that come in to look, instead of shoppers, they become more serious buyers at that point. Your opinion?
Yeah, I don't know how you mitigate that. I saw part of that. That clip when he was here, and he spoke to, the fact that they come in and all of a sudden people want this crazy money. I mean,
Right.
Gosh, if I had a few acres on 164 and water and sewer just came through, I'd be like, hey, I want,
Yeah, seriously.
Oh, if you want to buy my property, okay, we're going to put another comma onto that, not just another zero.
I mean, could you really fault these people though?
Yeah.
I mean,
And I don't know how you get around that. I don't. I mean, obviously, that's kind of capitalism. Everybody wants to make as much as they can, and
who doesn't?
there's a
If
reason
I
why
had a
people are still
property
hanging
that
on that.
somebody wanted top dollar for, I would definitely be willing to have a conversation about it for sure.
Except our house.
Who wants top dollar for our house?
I don't know. It's a nice house.
It's a nice house. Who wants to buy my house?
Wait a minute. That's not for sale.
Well,
Let's see. After Scott said, good luck breaking up the Griswold Mafia, Gary Bolak says he agrees with Scott. And he also says that change is not easy, but it is essential.
absolutely.
So that is true.
Agreed.
Valerie King has a question. Scott, please explain the recent reveal of an old budget audit. Why did that take so long to be shared? She says this is very concerning. Wah, 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 wah.
Don't let them see you sweat.
Shall I read it again to give you more time?
No. Boy, I don't even know where to begin. So, I guess a kind of a quick overview. Typically, I guess the audits are done, everything's submitted, or everything's submitted to the auditor typically by, I think it's 12/31. Auditors do their job, they pros it. There were some situations, I guess, and everything wasn't submitted. I can recall personally, I think it was in perhaps our June meeting where we were made aware that there were some outstanding issues with the audit.
Which audit? Are we talking about a specific audit?
We're talking about, I guess it would be fiscal year.
Town budget?
Yes.
Okay.
21, 22?
Oh.
Yes. 22, 23? We're in 23 now.
Yep.
So 21, 22. So, so we're made aware, I think it was in January, that there were still some outstanding issues. So obviously the auditors weren't able to do what they needed to do. It hadn't been then submitted to the state. It was now a point of concern because if it didn't get done rather quickly, the state was then going to intervene.
Mm-hmm.
The state, they were required, I believe the town was required to have biweekly, give the state biweekly, updates. And it stemmed from some carryover and being able to, I think, balance some expenses between, I think, on the Board of Ed side and with the town. now is my understanding that all of that has been rectified or remedied. That there were certain, and I'll try to, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole.
Sure.
But to do my best to explain it, there were a number of expenses, I guess, that were made on the Board of Ed, and it's how, I guess, kind of that information goes back and forth, and it gets reconciled. It gets reconciled then on the town side, and there were discrepancies, I guess, between what those expenses were.
Is that the
Was
nature of the
reconciled.
Board of Ed budget because it's an expense only budget?
It's
So it actually-
it's just the nature of, I guess, those are the checks and balances that everything then goes back to the finance department here, and everything gets reconciled there, and a number of items it wasn't balancing. So basically, you had to go back however many months to be able to try to figure out why and where the discrepancies were. So that why we didn't know, that was brought up at our August meeting. Look, we need to figure out what happened, why it happened. We need to make sure it doesn't happen again. If we need to craft additional policy to ensure, but at the end of the day, we should have known much sooner than we did that there was an issue and what that issue.
What kind of money are
was.
we talking about?
I don't know if it's necessarily money as opposed to just certain things weren't balancing out.
Okay.
So that's the way that I understand it. It's not like, there was missing money or there's no, it's not a big conspiracy issue here. It was just that things weren't necessarily, everything's got to tie out. It's like balancing your checking account.
Right.
If you're off by, you're paying your bills, and if you're off by,
$35
$800, or you're off by, $7, you say, okay, we need to dig down in here and figure out why my statement, why my checkbook aren't matching up, because everything needs to align. And that's my understanding. Is it's kind of a watered down version, but that's really what had happened. So they had to work through that. That took some time. We got an email from the finance director a couple of weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, that we believed everything was all set at that point. It had been forwarded to the auditors, so that we could kind of, move on. Of course, now we need to look forward, and that still hasn't, I don't think that's been submitted to the state, to my knowledge, not as of yet. Maybe it has, and we just haven't been updated.
So everything's
on that.
accounted for.
It's
all checks and balances.
My understanding is they did work through that. We had some discussions at our last meeting, because we need to make sure that doesn't happen again. And some additional checks and balances obviously are put in place, which we were assured that they're working through that as well to get that done. And what I mean by that is that's, the business agent for the school system and the finance director for the town, communication wise, and make sure those checks and balances are in place. And that's kind of it. I'm sure we'll get more information on that this evening. That question will come up because we do have a meeting this evening.
Cindy says usually comes down to a journal entry between an income and expense general ledger.
Yep.
And also she says it isn't uncommon for annual financial audits to take a long time.
It's not. It's not uncommon. She's 100% correct. I guess what is uncommon is the fact that it went out now as long as it did. We had an extension, went past the extension. So at that point, I believe that's when the state reached out and said, hey, we don't have your information yet. What's going on?
Okay. There's a Board of Finance meeting. One of the things that we had talked about, or kind of joking around about before we turned the cameras on today, was the availability of information. Whether it's funny because I didn't see it on Grizzle Now, or whatever. But there are so many places that you can get information.
Yeah.
There's a town website. We do things, and there's a whole bunch of people. Are the Board of Finance meetings streamed?
Yes.
Okay. So that's available to anybody that wants to watch it, and it stays up there. So where are is it streamed just like the Board of Selectmen meetings are streamed?
It is. It's the same the
owl
mechanism,
camera.
The owl camera. Yep.
Okay.
To our point, I don't know how you get any more information out to everybody. I mean,
Right.
you can't spoon feed everybody like
No.
they would like to be. I mean,
I was
we
gonna say, they
talked
want
we
that.
talked before the meeting. Go back, 15 years ago, and maybe it's a little longer than that. I was a late adopter
Yeah.
I was a very late adopter to social media, but I mean that has been around for for quite a while. I mean, before you'd have to wait to look at an article in the paper,
Or kids
talk
don't
to
know
your
a time
neighbor,
before social
or wait
media.
for a flyer to come home, or or whatever. And that was the only way you got your information. And now,
Right.
Yeah.
everybody.
Did
and
you
their
bring your
brother
folder
has it.
home?
Yep.
I want to see what happened.
And you still have those old school methods of communication, but gosh,
Right.
everything now is everywhere. Everybody's putting it out. I didn't know. I didn't know. Nobody told me.
That's my favorite.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. I mean, Scott Fryer and I have talked about it and laughed about it and stuff. And it's like, people say, well, I didn't know. That's nothing but a freaking excuse.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, it didn't come up in your feed on Facebook is what you're saying. You didn't go looking for it.
you need to put forth just a fraction of effort, I think, to get the
Yeah.
information. Like we talked about. If you're curious as to what's going on, hey, what's the mill rate? What's the budget? What's going on with the school? When's the next
Right.
meeting?
Right,
You can
right,
Google
right.
it. Google's going to bring you to 27 different links between Facebook and and Twitter and the Instagram feeds and
Right.
your own
Totally.
feed and your own
Yep.
feed and the websites and
Right.
Jesus, I don't know.
Yeah, I think when people say that, how many times have we talked about it? It's like, I didn't, it's really funny. It's comical when I see it. It's like,
It's a joke.
I didn't know this
It's a
was
running
happening.
joke that we have.
Yeah.
See how they slid that right in there? They didn't tell anybody. They just slid it right in
Yeah.
there.
And then we
Yeah.
can go ahead and cite 12 sources that it did tell them.
Right.
But what happened is it didn't come up on their Facebook feed. Because if it doesn't come up in your feed, it didn't happen, Scott. At all.
That's true.
The world is controlled by Facebook.
I try to spend a couple hours on Grizzled now every
Oh,
night to find
That's
out
great.
what's going on.
That is
Yeah.
good
That
entertainment
is
sometimes.
free entertainment
That
in
is
the
good.
morning.
Now, I think Carl Lucia does a wonderful job,
Yes.
on that page, and he doesn't get enough credit for what he
He
does.
does.
And but there are
But some of the
But some of the
topics-
stuff that's
Oh
on
there's
there,
some
like
clowns on there
Yeah.
that are just
Good
like, oh my
God.
god.
Are you kidding?
We'll go back and forth and go like, we'll literally be looking for the stupid Grizzle posts of the day, and there are some.
and I like the ones where somebody's really trying to do the right thing and explain something,
Right.
and they
right.
continue to get trolled, and they get trolled more and more, and they are like by
Yeah.
the seventh time of trying to
Scott
explain
said
it,
troll.
figure out.
He's been social media eyes. He said trolled. Did you learn that from your daughters or? Because that's a thing. That's a thing.
Yep.
I was just going to ask you something about. Oh, okay. Here's a question I kind of left in my back pocket. Kind of alluded to it before we went on. Tonight's a Board of Finance meeting. There's an agenda item tonight where the senior center is coming forth looking for additional monies for I correct me if I'm wrong, but for projects that they're not completed all the way or things that are kind of left in limbo that they want to get done.
Yeah, I think they had a couple of open items and or like repairs or changes that
Mhm.
had come about that they were looking for some additional monies on.
Okay. So now let's take this into a political stance.
Mhm.
Right thing, wrong time. And the reason why I say this is Tina Falk is, and I've heard this, and I'm just bringing it up because I've heard this from a few people, and a lot of people think, well, Minarski said nothing. This is just things that I hear that, we want to get answers to. Tina Falk running for first selectman. And they're coming forth looking. Can that be used and say, well, she's just looking for more money for something? And maybe she-
well, I mean,
I don't know. Is that a detriment at this point for a political campaign or not?
I guess I look.
I don't think it
guess
matters
at
personally,
I
but-
guess I look at it this way. While she's present at the meetings and she's the
Mhm.
director of the senior center, the person that we always have a dialogue with and deal directly with is Rob Perrette, who is the chair of the building committee for
Right.
the senior center.
I'm glad you said that.
So, while she may be the department head for the senior center.
Yep.
Building project, and the responsibility
to Brock
falls under that committee, and we deal directly with the chair of that committee, who's responsible for for the proper construction and outfit of that facility.
See, I knew that, and I was hoping to God you were going to say that. But a lot of people will look at it and say, "Well, this is Tina.
Yeah.
It doesn't really roll up to her."
People are going to do what they're going to do, the same way that they troll people on social media. I mean, you can't control that. I call them the people that they sit in their closet at 12 o'clock at night and they type their malicious, posts out.
Yeah.
But I mean, and I don't know what that dollar value is. Well, I mean, I could look it up because I probably have it in my packet. I don't know what that dollar value is off the top of my head, and it might not actually be in here, but it wasn't a tremendous amount of money. I shouldn't say it like that. I think they were looking for a maximum of like just under $35,000 for the additional things. And I'm looking at the list, and it was like annunciator testing, HVAC, airflow silencers, closures, the labor and parts,
Right.
Power assist closures. Those are for like the doors and stuff like that. Shelving, some bollards for the front of the building, and some chairs. And we received a $1.2 million, bond for that project. So
that's
it's not
$750,000 that they went to referendum for. That's been satisfied, has it not?
Correct.
Which a lot of people don't know.
Correct. So that has been, and that money is also a reimbursable grant. So there are previous, bills that we had already paid well before we received that money, that you can take that money and we can apply it. So it kind of goes back. So it kind of goes, comes back to us, I guess we'll say. So that money can obviously be appropriated out of that $1.2 million.
Now, isn't there another $400,000 too? That's in
there
play.
There's the good point on that too. I wasn't thinking about that. There was the USDA.
That's why they pay me the little bucks.
That's it. There was the USDA grant.
Very little. Yeah.
So the money is there, and it's a no cost. I'd say it's a no cost item to the taxpayers, and an additional appropriation kind of thing.
Gotcha. I think that's important just to kind of put out there, because you have people that'll be saying they want more money. They want more money. However, a lot of people, or the same people, aren't aware that there is that $1.2 million grant that came from,
and that $400,000
and that $400,000 USDA.
So
the money is there.
So whether that came in, and a lot of that came in after the fact. So we had the referendum. We did have that additional appropriation with that item. But all of that's been, but that second item's been satisfied, like you said.
Yeah,
that's been satisfied, and so you still have this available. So,
let's go back to the whole town manager thing. Okay. Just a quick question.
Sure.
If we were to choose a town manager, let's just say everything, the stars have aligned, planets are all in alignment as well. Do we choose a town manager that lives in Griswold or out of Griswold? And the reason why I ask that is because this has been a discussion as well. Well, we want to get somebody from Griswold because they are familiar with the way the town operates and stuff like that. No, we want somebody from out of Griswold because they don't have, any kind of
bias.
Yeah, they don't have any skin in the game. They're just looking at the numbers, and this is the way that it is. What is your take on that, if any?
You can think small. You can't see the forest through the trees, or you can think large. Mm-hmm. And I'll make kind of a comparison or an analogy. When we had the when we had the school project, we had the elementary school, we had the, we had the middle school project. If you're going to do it, do it right.
Right.
We had the senior center project. If you're going to do it right. It's the same thing. It's the same thing with this. If it ever came to fruition, you had a vote, and the people, overwhelmingly or in the majority voted to change the style of government. And
Right,
hire
right.
a town manager. You need to do a nationwide search. You need to make sure that you have somebody that has the education and the experience so that they can do the right job.
Right.
We talk about, we can only look in Griswold because they're familiar with the town. You bring somebody in that's got the experience.
Mhm.
Small town USA here, small town USA, there are differences, but there are similarities. It's not like reinventing the wheel. And I'm a fan of fresh perspectives.
Mhm.
Do you think a lot of people try to reinvent the wheel instead of just go with what we got?
Oh, I think people are comfortable and people want to go with the flow.
Anything else you want to add about the Board of Finance or Scott Davis's personal life, or do you want to talk about vacations coming up, or
No.
just any life words that you'd like to share?
No, we have our meeting tonight, 7:00. Tune in, watch it.
Where can people watch it? Is it on the Town of Griswold Facebook page?
Mike,
or-
that's probably one of the only answers that's an answer I don't have, and that's probably
Got
an
it.
answer I should have. Since I'm there
No,
in attendance,
no.
I don't ever have to watch it. So
Sure, exactly. You
I-
know what happened.
I don't know. I don't even know how to. Embarrassingly, I don't even know how to find the link or if it's provided for those meetings. I'm not sure.
I'm going to assume that it is going to air on the Town of Griswold YouTube page. That's what I would assume. There's also the Town of Griswold Facebook page.
If they got the YouTube page, then you're right. That's exactly what it is.
It's generally
Yeah.
where people kind of convene to for that kind of stuff. So, that's all I have today, sir. It's always a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks.
It really is.
Thank you. I enjoy being
Did
here.
I throw you under the bus?
Nope, not at all.
I'll try better next time. I'll try harder next time. Anyway, there was something else I was going to say. Oh! Thursday we have a guest coming in. A lot of people from Plainfield. Well, I don't know if you know this gentleman, but he has moved to Jewett City. He's been a perpetual libertarian candidate for first selectman in the town of Plainfield, and he has moved to Jewett City. It's the real deal, Dan Real. I don't know if you've ever heard of Dan or anything. He's a character. I like Dan personally, just to chat with him.
So that's a show not to miss.
Don't miss it. That's good. It's going to be interesting Thursday. The real deal, Dan Real, who is just watch it. That's all I got to say. So he's interesting. Scott, thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
All right. That's going to do it for us. Thanks, everybody, for coming on in and listening to the show. If, you can continue to comment in the room if you'd like. If you have any suggestions as far as what you want for content or who you want on the show or what kind of subject matter, you can always send me a text at 860-591-9664. 86. No one does. No one ever does. So I tell people it's available. It's 860-591-9664. It was on the screen for 2 months. Nobody texted it. So yeah. Apathy. 860-9. I don't even know what it is. 860-591-9664. You can text us or you can send me a DM on Facebook if you got it like that. So have a good day, everyone. Thank you, and we will see you tomorrow.